Jon Anik and Kenny Florian podcast. Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
I love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
Next shot, bang.
Could your shot look any crisper? Could your camera right now look any better? I would suggest no.
What's up, dude? Did you do anything interesting this weekend?
It's pretty light. Just playing with the kids, chucking a baseball in the backyard. Are you in like 4K? What is going on?
I might be. I don't know. Thank goodness for this camera, though. But then it does show some weird stuff on my face. But I'm doing good, dude. The camera's doing good. It's been solid for me. Thank you, Brian Petrie.
And it looks like you're excited to have some time with the children here coming up. So we actually aren't going to be on these airwaves until September 26th after today. But yes, the cupboard is full. We have a lot to get to, and always excited to be with our audience. But I think particularly so today after what was just a huge weekend in the combat sports world. So if you are with us live on a Monday or after the fact, thanks for being here. It's Monday, September 15th, 2025. That is episode 567 of the Anik and Florian podcast brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Ken Flo, boxing, mixed martial arts. What was your Saturday like? How much of this content did you ingest live? And what did you think of it?
Oh, my goodness. It was quite the weekend. A lot of sports going on for the Florian family. We were at the Charlotte FC game. We saw Charlotte FC take on Inter Miami. Messi, one of my favorite players, probably the best soccer player of all time. Big fan, but not when he's playing Charlotte FC. That's my team now. That's the only team that I rep is Charlotte FC. But they're doing great right now. We won 3-0. Messi missed a penalty kick, which was crazy. But it was cool to see him play live for the very first time. And as I was watching, I had the UFC up for a little bit. I had the boxing going on for a little bit. My phones were kind of up, and yeah, it was a great experience, man. But then I went home, saw the boxing at night, and then I saw the UFC fights the following day.
All right, I have a few follow-ups. So you saw Messi miss a PK live.
Yeah.
Pretty consequential, right?
Yes.
Were your children there or no?
They were. That's a tongue twister, by the way. Messi missed a PK. They were there. They were there till pretty late. They survived through it. It was fun.
Yeah.
Ton of traffic on the way out, but it was cool, man. It was good for the kids to see that.
And then you also said you had your phones going. So I do know a lot of men, incidentally, who have two phones. Do you have?
I don't have two phones. I don't have two phones. I'm not that gangster, but
yeah, it doesn't seem like a guy. You got a weapon, right? Because obviously you got a weapon, probably, if you concealed weapon, if that's allowed in the state of North Carolina, and then a couple phones. I mean, and then children. There's only so much bandwidth.
That's
here.
right.
So, but I had no idea you were a Charlotte FC fan. Who is their best player, incidentally?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I'm not.
Can you name any of the players? You just said we. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm kind of a fair weather fan, but no, like I support them. I should say. Do I know all of the players? No, I do not.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Cody just wrote Ashley Westwood. So
yeah, he's the captain. Yeah, Westwood's the captain. Thank you, Cody. Yeah.
Perhaps that was some artificial intelligence. Cody.
That's right.
All right, so a lot to get to today. Obviously, a huge weekend for the sport of boxing. Excited to share a lot of different thoughts that I have with you, not just about the main event and the fight card itself, but just the week that was. Noche UFC is also in the books. We will get to Diego Lopes's big win and all of those things. We do have Ray Longo coming up in about 30 minutes. I am still in Las Vegas. I am attending to some business here shortly, and that's why we're going a little bit early today. So thanks to everybody for being with us. All right, headlines brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. And thankfully, no shot of the week today, because I do have some voiceover work later today, and given the condition of the vocal quality already, I don't think we need to be banging Cristalino tequila at 7:52 a.m. Pacific as it is. Ken Flo, I don't really know where to begin. Actually, my notes say Ricky Hatton, and you and I were, I think, much more deeply rooted in watching and covering boxing, I think, when Ricky Hatton was in his prime than maybe we are right now. And may this man rest in peace, and gone far too soon. And the most climactic night of my boxing life as a journalist prior to Saturday night was Mayweather Hatton. And it was one of the greatest nights of my life. You know, Floyd Mayweather beat Ricky that night by 10th round knockout, but the whole build up to that fight and everything else. And, you know, the British fans, there's only one Ricky Hatton.
Yeah.
Truer words, I think, have never been spoken. And oftentimes you'll hear me trot out one of one, you know, there's only one Ricky Hatton, and may he rest in peace.
That's for sure. And Ricky was one of those guys that, you know, had a huge fan base. I remember the fights against Mayweather and Pacquiao very well. Every time he fought, it sounded like a soccer game. And he had recently kind of come back and got himself into shape and all that stuff. And, you know, it's so hard because as fighters, I think a lot of us are, you know, not only fighting our opponents in the ring, but fighting ourselves, fighting our demons. And, you know, it's really tough, especially given the nature of the sport itself. And my heart goes out to his family and his friends. Ricky was an absolute legend, man. And I love the way he fought. He fought with determination. He fought with passion. He was tough as nails, and was always trying to make it exciting, getting in his opponent's face. So I was really sad to hear that news, man.
So affable, so likable, so beloved by the fan base and by his opponents. You know, this hit Manny Pacquiao and many others profoundly. Michael Bisping posted a video of Ricky Hatton holding pads for him back in the day, and the caption was something to the effect of, man, I mean, can you imagine for a kid like me from Clitheroe? And not that Michael and Ricky are that different in age. I think very similar in age. Michael might actually be older by a little bit, but having Ricky Hatton hold pads for you. So, you know, we lost a good one, to be sure. May Ricky Hatton rest in peace. So Diego Lopes was the betting underdog against Jean Lord Silva. He was a little bit maligned based upon the Volkanovski performance, and this win just shifts everything back to the positive, makes him supremely relevant now in terms of any championship matchmaking or otherwise. It had style points, it had a double bonus, and it also had a lot of layers, in terms of the Brazil. This is a huge, huge result for Diego Lopes, and an amazing fight for mixed martial arts fans while it lasted.
It was an unbelievable fight. It was extremely exciting, and we kind of figured that going in just based on both of their styles and how aggressive and how skilled and how well-rounded they are. But it, I think, more than delivered. Diego Lopes, I think, you know, started off really, really well, did a great job of trying to slow Jon Silva down with those leg kicks. And Jon Silva started to get in a groove. He missed on a spinning back kick, and that's where Diego Lopes really took over, potentially winning that first round 10-8. And, you know, on the feet, though, once Jon Silva got in, I guess, late first round, but more so in round 2, we saw just how talented he is on the feet. The problem was his emotions took over. He was looking for a lot of big shots, which were unnecessary, and allowed Diego Lopes to find a spinning elbow of his own.
So one thing Andre Ward was talking about on the Canelo versus Crawford broadcast, and it was something that came up in our fighter meeting with Jermaine Franklin Jr., one of the heavyweights, is in-fight focus, right? And in a boxing world in which maybe you're fighting 10 threes or 12 threes, you're going back to the stool 9 or 11 times potentially, trying to focus on the right things over those 60 or 75 seconds. And it can be hard, especially if things maybe aren't going well. And maybe in that sport at times, like, you're probably not going to get knocked out. It's hard to be focused all the time. And Jon Silva spoke to maybe losing sight of the strategy or what his corner was looking for him to do. And, you know, that is part of this loss for Jon Silva, right? All credit to Diego Lopes, but, you know, he did lose some discipline in a critical moment here.
There's no question about that. I think that really was the defining factor for him and for that failure. I think that, you know, Jon Silva is one of those guys that uses his emotions typically uses his emotions pretty well. However, he had never faced someone like a Diego Lopes. And, I experienced this certainly in the UFC where your emotions could really help you, but they could really hurt you. But what I found ultimately over time was that emotions kind of don't really have a place in probably professional sports at all, certainly not in fighting anyway, because it can cloud the way that you think about things and what you think you should be doing. And Jon Silva was doing fantastic, but for whatever reason, he felt he needed to throw way more knockout punches or wilder punches than what was necessary when he was finding a lot of success with the technical stuff that he was doing, when he was putting his combinations together, when he was just looking to find targets as opposed to destroy the face of Diego Lopes. And it was Lopes, on the other side of things, who kept his composure. He was eating huge shots. I mean, Lopes has a chin from hell, John, and we saw that. But he was the guy who kept composure. He was the guy who really stayed calm for the most part. I don't think he needed to engage as much with Jon Silva or stand up as much. I think he probably could have used more takedown attempts. But either way, Jon Silva lost a little bit of that emotional control and paid for it.
I'd imagine you can speak to some of that loss of emotional control or at least frustration, like even as a Boston College soccer player or football, as it were, for you in Europe, right? I'd imagine there were times maybe in a 0-0 game where maybe, or in other games where you might have lost focus, or was there anywhere in fight that you ever felt frustrated or a loss of focus?
Oh, for sure. It's when I fought in Boston. I remember when I fought Gray Maynard, certainly there was the experience against Diego Sanchez in the Ultimate Fighter finale, but I had no experience to speak of. It was the largest crowd I'd ever experienced. But I then had some experience, obviously fighting for a little while and being some big spots, already had championship experience. But then against Gray Maynard in Boston, in my hometown, hearing the crowd boo and, getting away from my game plan and feeling like, nothing's happening in this fight. I need to go forward, which ultimately allowed Gray Maynard to take me down and just hold me there. And I felt so frustrated because first of all, it wasn't the fight I wanted.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to do what I wanted. And I just constantly felt like I was being taken out of the experience by hearing the crowd and kind of being overwhelmed by, the things outside of myself and what I should have been doing in the fight. And yeah, I remember that experience extremely well. Even that whole week, because I stayed home, I felt like I wasn't involved in the fight experience. So,
yeah. You know who else remembers that week?
You?
Yeah, fucking me, right? The president of Team Florian. And I actually don't want to live in that anymore. I don't want to marinate in that anymore. I don't want to relive that.
Me neither.
Let's move on. So, Diego Lopes, in terms of the ceiling, so I would submit to you that the night upon which Jack Della Maddalena beat Bilal Muhammad, that maybe no welterweight in the world was beating three-name Jack, and the night upon which Alexander Volkanovski beat Diego Lopes, I just think he got vintage Volk, and not a lot of guys were going to beat Volk in that flow, fainting, perfect state that night. So can Diego Lopes win a world championship? I certainly think he can. And, what did you learn about Diego Lopes, if anything, in these, however many minutes, nearly 2 rounds?
I think that we learned that he's tough as nails. It is confirmed he has a nasty, nasty chin that is going to hold up against some of the biggest punchers in the 145-pound division. He loves to do damage. He's extremely aggressive. He's exciting to watch. So I think this is going to make him that much more of a star. Now, can he get the belt? Yeah, I think he can. I think he's certainly talented enough to do it. But we did see him get exposed against a high-level striker like a Jon Silva. Now, I think Jon Silva is special and certainly has a lot of attributes striking-wise that other people in that division do not have. So I think if Diego can refine his defense much more with the striking and make better decisions about how he enters in with some of his ground stuff, I absolutely think he can be a champion in that division. He's got it all. The size, the work ethic. For a guy to make weight who's as big as Diego Lopes, that takes a tremendous amount of discipline. So the fact that he's doing it time and time again, no matter what the circumstances are, shows this guy is dedicated and hungry, and I love to see that.
This man, excuse me, has dealt with so many different circumstances in his UFC career, many of them less than ideal. You want to talk about a guy who's been hardened and forged by life experience as a BJJ coach that fuels his career, and then the Dan Ige situation.
Right.
Really bad career decision for Lopes to take that fight. It all worked out, but I just have so much respect for the way he has gone about his business. And I think John Silva and the Fighting Nerds, they're going to be back, but this is huge for Diego Lopes to get this result. He was a big underdog going in there against John Silva.
Yeah, and I think that, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders as well. Two Brazilians going at it. Of course, Diego Lopes has been living in Mexico for a while and probably representing both those countries, but anytime you're fighting one of your countrymen, a guy who is very highly regarded, and it's kind of like it's either me or him, man, there's going to be a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And the fact that he came through after experiencing a lot of adversity in round 2, dealing with those huge shots, I was extremely impressed. And I think these are the kind of performances that are going to help push him to that next level yet again.
It was interesting for me being at Allegiant Stadium doing the boxing event, and then at one point they showed a UFC recap in-house, and I happened to be in the stand-up position for part of it, and just seeing all the blood and guts warriors, it wasn't a particularly bloody night at Allegiant Stadium, so it was interesting, the juxtaposition in that moment. So in terms of who might be next for Diego Lopes, certainly the Yair Rodriguez fight is one that the fans are going to be of an competitive nature for whenever that fight would happen. But Lerone Murphy, recent guest on the Anik and Florian podcast, had some interesting comments, and if they weren't so topical, I might save them for Ray Longo because they're applicable to his guy, Aljamain Sterling. But this is a couple hours ago from Lerone Murphy. How is Aljo's name even in the mix for a featherweight title fight? I'm confused. Bro's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. He was a good bantamweight, but an average featherweight. Only one name makes sense, and that is Lerone Murphy. And then he went on to say, Diego's done amazing against Silva, but not much changes in a rematch against Volk. The people want to see new matchups. I'm 17-0 for a reason. It's my time. So Lerone Murphy was a guest on our show, and I asked him in a very direct way, are you not undeniable for this title fight? And I do believe Lerone is. He's undefeated. He just turned in the knockout of the year. Couldn't have laid out a better case. But my man, the Miracle, as much love as I have for you, can we please not pretend that Aljamain Sterling right now, and I know you agree with me, Kenny, maybe you don't, is not a bona fide #1 featherweight contender. He got the rawest of fucking deals as the undisputed UFC bantamweight champion, and he has fought amazingly well in this division. Yes, he lost to Movsar Evloev, but we are not operating in a straight meritocracy because Movsar's fucking 9-0 in the UFC and they matched him up with Aaron Pica. So let's not pretend that the Movsar Evloev loss is some terrible thing for Aljamain Sterling. He just beat Brian Ortega, which is as signature a win as you can get in the division, Ken Flo. And in my money, I think is on paper, at least in terms of contender types, as big as anything Lerone has done. What do you think in terms of Aljo's case at 45 before we move on?
Yeah, no, listen, I think Aljo is still, I do not think he's a middle of the road 145 pounder. I think that's Lerone making a case for himself as the guy who should get the belt. Now, I think that is true. I think that Lerone should get that next shot at the belt. But I don't think it's true that Aljamain Sterling is a middle of the road 145 pounder. I think he's absolutely elite in that division. That fight against Evloev could have gone either way. I had Evloev winning, but by a hair. I mean, it was close. I thought Aljo was one decision, one back take away from winning that fight. So anyways, he's elite. There's no question about it. And I think that puts him in the running right now. I think Lopes should take another fight. And I think that next fight should be against Yair Rodriguez. So for me right now, Movsar, of course, missed out that Aaron Pico opportunity. But I think that he will be back. But as far as who should get the next shot, I think it's Murphy. I think Yair Rodriguez should take on Diego Lopes. I think that's the fight to make. There's obviously bad blood there. Building up that fight would be easy. That could be a huge fight night or a huge, co-main on a pay-per-view. But anyways, I think the 145-pound division is very, very strong. And who knows? Maybe Aljo could fight one of those guys as well.
I really think it's going to be UFC 323 Volkanovski versus Murphy in December. I think Lerone's going to get the title fight. I think this result over the weekend was enormous for Lerone to get Jon Silva
Yes.
with all of his pageantry in and out of the octagon, out of the mix, and have the guy in Diego Lopes who recently fought for the belt win. That's the perfect result for Lerone. But is there a promotional appetite to do Volkanovski versus Sterling because Aljo has status as a former champion? I don't think so right now. But it would not be the craziest thing. And you can be sure. And again, I don't like to speculate, but that Hunter Campbell would love to do Aljo a solid at this point in time. You know, he's done a lot of amazing things for the UFC. That has to be stated.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised though if they make a Jon Silva Aljamain Sterling fight.
You wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised if they make.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
So, yeah,
I think it makes a ton of sense. I mean, do it in December. No, I think Aljo is going to have to fight one more. Absolutely. And I really do think Lerone has more than the inside track. I like that he's getting verbal about the 2-2 for Aljo in his last 4.
And always a great thing when you have the champ himself, Alexander Volkanovski, calling for Lerone Murphy after that fight. He's like, let's do it. I mean, that's how you make it. When you see the champ's on board, you know, Lerone Murphy's on board, I think UFC is going to be on board as well.
I mean, Volk did call for Evloev, and that didn't happen. But yes, he is calling for Murphy. But yeah,
that's true.
Part of the issue, I think, and I do think, I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. I think Lerone is smart to go on the offensive. I just happen to disagree with some of the comments that are in there. But I think if you're Lerone Murphy, you were waiting for this result between Jon Silva and Diego Lopes. Now we have it. It works out for you. And you just got to hope that this fight gets made here in the not too distant future, because I think for Lerone, even though we're only in September, right, you don't want any time to elapse. You want this fight to be announced.
Yes.
And we'll see what happens. But congratulations to Diego Lopes. Congratulations to the Dr. David Martinez. You know, Kempflo, we thought this was going to be a dangerous fight for Rob Font. And, of course, all hail Rob Font for taking this fight, for the, you know, the valiant manner in which he fought. But, you know, we got a new bantamweight contender. David Martinez is the real deal.
Dude, he really is. My goodness. The athleticism that he shows, the speed was just something to marvel. I was really, really impressed. Now, Rob Font, maybe not the fastest guy in the world, but he is a very technical boxer, a very good striker, a very good grappler, has a ton of experience. And it just looked like Martinez was moving at a completely different speed. And boy, his counters, his kicks, the side kicks, everything, it comes from really beautiful fundamentals. And then when you add in that athleticism and that confidence, he's going to be someone to watch, dude. I mean, not a whole lot of guys. What's that, his second UFC fight? And he's beating someone like Rob Font? And he's a doctor? What?
An orthopedic surgeon. I think he might be 3-0 in the UFC now.
Oh,
perhaps,
is it? Okay.
Code Blue. No, I could be wrong. Maybe Cody can check that. But for Rob Font to put his single ranking on the line against all comers anytime, Kenfo all over at 2-0 in the UFC now, right? I mean, this is how the sport moves forward, is the willingness of guys like Rob Font to fight number 25 in the world.
And this wasn't a Rob Font that's been beaten down. He's been looking great, John. He was coming into this fight with momentum. He has a new camp. He's got a kind of new approach to how he's doing. I noticed a little bit of a different style the last few fights, which he brought in very well. But Martinez is just that damn good. Like I was really, really impressed with that performance.
It really is interesting because I say for David Martinez, number 25, but maybe in terms of Sean Shelby or Mick Maynard's rankings, David Martinez came in 1-0 in the UFC as like 45 at bantamweight, right? But again, good job by the UFC, because this guy is really, I think, billable. I think you can build around him in Mexico, and a huge win for him. How about the circumstances surrounding this Jared Gordon fight, right? Congratulations to Rafa Garcia. Tremendous right hand catching Jared Gordon coming in. I mean, that is just perfect. But Jared Gordon in a car accident the day before the fight, and gosh, I don't even know where to begin. But Jared Gordon, the faithful man that he is, just has gotten so many bad breaks as a pro. And I feel like because of so much of that history, he had to seemingly fight on here with a sleeve on his right knee. And he fought well over the first 2 rounds. But my gosh, man, this dude can't catch a fucking break.
I know it. It's been tough. And these are the kind of things that kind of concerns me, especially with a guy like Jared, who's been through it, man, both in and out of the cage. And, I hope that he uses this as something to kind of build confidence from, knowing that he was dealing with, a bad knee, injured knee, a car accident, all this stuff. And he still was able to do that good against a dangerous guy like Rafa Garcia. And man, it was tough. I thought his second round was beautiful. I thought he was landing some huge shots. I thought he won round 2. I thought he lost round 1 and was looking good. And then I think the lack of feints allowed Garcia to time him much more at the end of round 2 and then into round 3. And that's where he was able to land that huge shot. And even then, after all that, he was hurt. He was trying to come back, and he was in that tight choke. He still fought through it.
Yep.
And man, the heart that Jared Gordon has is just unbelievable, man. And I was sad to see him lose, man.
I look forward to talking to Jared and hearing about the circumstances that he was dealing with. But heart and will are not issues for Jared Gordon. As such, he fought on. We will have more on this fight card coming up with Ray Longo. I am curious to get the opinions of Kenny and Ray on Kelvin Gastelum, who just doesn't seem to respect the division, at least when it comes to these weight cuts at times. So I'm curious to get Longo and Ken Flo's take on all of that. But I would like to transition to the boxing, if I could. Pronunciation of the week is brought to you by Total Wireless, the official wireless provider of UFC. Get unlimited data that won't slow you down. So I love hearing these Mexican fighters say their names, and we are bringing you some files today. Ken Flo, the Netflix card was preceded by 6 prelims on YouTube, and the first winning fighter of the night was a Mexican Olympic silver medalist by the name of Marco Verde, and I can say it in an Americanized way right there because you're going to now say it closer to the way he is going to say it. It's our pronunciation of the week. Marco Verde. Ken Flo, take it away.
Was it Marco Verde? Did I get it, John?
I mean, you more than got it. You pierced it. I mean, you just murdered it. I mean, get out your target emojis, Cody. Let's hear Marco.
That's good. Marco Verde.
Yeah!
Marco Verde.
The V's are B's. The V's
are
B's.
You, that's it. The V's are B's. And the Y's are J's. I mean, my twin brother loves when he hears Spanish talking heads talk about a fighter like Raul Rosas Jr. instead of the youngest. It's like, he's the youngest fighter on the roster. The youngest. He's the youngest.
He's the youngest.
Also playing at the Canelo v. Crawford festivities, Ken Flo, El Feroz, Fernando. I sound like trash. Fernando Vargas Jr. Kenny, can you say Fernando Vargas Jr. for us as well?
Fernando Vargas Jr.
The V's are B's. Let's hear Fernando Vargas Jr.
Fernando Vargas. Let me do that again. Go back. Fernando Vargas Jr.
One more time.
Fernando Vargas Jr.
Great.
Second one that I wanted for just the regular name.
Okay.
El Feroz Fernando Vargas Jr.
Nice.
Oh, it's pretty. Almost as pretty as those Vargas brothers. I mean, I did say in an interview I did, and I'm very comfortable in my own sexuality, Emiliano Vargas, the youngest, most promising of the 3 Vargas brothers. I was like, Is that not the most handsome man I've ever seen in my life? I mean, he's trying to become a real boxing star and has tremendous promise. And looks the part. But I got to say, Kenny, and you can certainly, this could get you emotional. But seeing those Vargas brothers, right, with Fernando Vargas Sr. and seeing them all together, and there's a definite competitive spirit there. I don't think they're always completely jovial with each other, but seeing them all there together, supporting each other at the open workout and walking shoulder in shoulder to the biggest fight of Fernando's career, I think for anybody with brothers, and I got 2 of them, I mean, just amazing to see.
It is, man. And I think that all the years of training together, of, sharing that dream together, of like pushing each other. There's nothing more competitive than two brothers in the same field that are, going at it. And I think that's the kind of stuff that makes competition or trying to be the best a little bit more normal, right? When you grow up in a family like that. And, I know that was the case for me, and that's awesome to see. Yeah.
And we're going to get to Canelo Alvarez and certainly Terence Bud Crawford here in a minute. But Fernando Vargas Jr. just takes everything so seriously. He is so meticulous, and you can even tell when he records his name. He goes back and says, this is what I want. And even it's funny to hear the way he says, Fernando Vargas, and then he says Junior as the American. The American comes out. All right. So what an amazing live event Canelo versus Crawford was. And I think so much for a mixed martial arts commentator and fan like me to digest and wrap my head around. I have so many different thoughts spinning through my head about the sports and stadium shows. Dana White at times is reluctant to do stadium shows. And certainly if you were to put a UFC live event inside Allegiant Stadium with 70,000 people, you would need the right headlining athlete to sell 70,000 tickets. I mean, all hail Canelo Alvarez, the face of boxing, right? 9 stadium shows, I think it has been now. Wow. But this building in particular, I think the way it is architecturally built, you may have heard me say this on the broadcast, I think it lends itself well to a combat sports event, not just American football. Some of these NFL venues, and I had a conversation with Jim Gray about this off the air, are so cavernous and vast that you just could not put an octagon or a boxing ring in there. So I think it played well. It's always going to be a late arriving crowd for boxing, but it was a spectacle. It was spectacular. I was so thankful to be a part of it. And Terence Bud Crawford is the man, Kenny. I think my biggest takeaway as I walked into Allegiant Stadium on Saturday night was that to a man, 95% of Bud Crawford's contemporaries were picking him to win the fight. All of the elite boxers that I talked to or witnessed their predictions, they were all picking Bud, who went from plus 190 deliberately down to plus 135 or so at closing time. And it seemed like most people felt as though he had more ways to win. He fought exceedingly well, took control of the fight, and thankfully the judges saw what the world saw, and Bud Crawford is now the undisputed super middleweight champion.
Well, I think for people who really watch the sport, I think it was clear that Terence Crawford was the better boxer. I think where the doubts kind of came in was, does he have the size and the power to either hurt Canelo or take that force that's coming at him in the form of Canelo, who knows how to find your chin? And obviously we got that answer on Saturday night. Terence Crawford not only showed that he was the better boxer, but he showed that he can go up in that weight and be very effective, even in hurting a guy like Canelo, who is the naturally larger man. So as far as performances go, I mean, that's about as perfect as it gets. I mean, that is a tremendous performance when, again, you're dealing with that undefeated record. Now, I know probably the pressure was on Canelo. It was Crawford that was coming up in weight, but still, Crawford went in there cool as a cucumber, man, and really took over. For me, the difference was the footwork, the speed, the versatility of his boxing skills versus the power of Canelo. And I was blown away, man. That was as clean as it gets.
And I really just did not expect the size to be a factor. When I heard Bud talk about sizing Canelo Alvarez up, there was some strategy here, right? Like even when George St. Pierre moves up to 85, when Michael Bisping's the champion, right? I mean, there are certain matchups at 68 that would be problematic because of the size, I think, for Terence Bud Crawford. This one was not that. But let us bring in Ray Longo, because I know this man has a lot to say as usual. Let's get to the Ray Longo Minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The Jon Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Look at him. Look at the motherfucker. That's what I'm talking.
Trainer through the stars, Ray Longo.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
How we feeling?
How are you feeling? You look great today. You seem ready to go. Did you wake up early or something?
No, I'm going back to bed after this. What do you
So a tremendous weekend. My broadcast partner, Max Kellerman, said that we would know within the first 30 seconds if size would matter. And I don't know what athletic competition, guys, in which Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford would engage in which the size would actually be a factor, right, in terms of Canelo's genetics, the bone density. But, Kenny, these are very similarly sized men at this stage of their lives and careers. And part of that is Canelo Alvarez maybe coming in faster and a little bit leaner, Bud Crawford putting on some muscle mass. But, these guys are similar in size, and Bud Crawford just seemed to be the better boxer in more ways than one.
Yeah, and I think, people are going to be like, shut up, MMA guy. But having a wrestling background like Bud Crawford has, you're used to moving around bigger guys. You know how to use your weight. You know how to use your stance. You're used to that kind of conflict of kind of banging in there. And of course, you add in that elite, world-class, GOAT level type boxing skill. And, you have a guy who's not going to be afraid of anybody. And of course, like you said, John, him and his team really did a great job scouting out their opponent of going, there's certain guys stylistically, you can handle, even if they're up a weight class. There's other guys that maybe you might be afraid of. But, Canelo, an amazing, brilliant boxer. But the way that Crawford matched up against him, he proved that those guys knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, no, it was a really, really good technical fight. Yeah, I don't, you know what? I tell you, the start of that fight, I think I might have been delirious. What time did that fight start?
I know, and even Max and I were.
I got to tell you, man, it was unacceptable. Though I think it was 3:00 in the morning when I got done.
We should just sort of talk about that for a second if we could. And Kenny, I don't know what. Yeah, I guess it was late for you.
Yeah,
I would have just been fighting it so hard as a boxing fan at 12:39 a.m. Eastern when Canelo's starting to walk or whatever it was. And it's really difficult. I know you're catering to a lot of different masses and audiences, Ray, but that's a big deal, right? Pacing is a big deal. And that if Dana White had his druthers, he would do something about it.
Right. Well, it's funny. I had a party that night, so I probably got home at midnight. And I hadn't watched the UFC yet. So I go to see if the Canelo fight's on. It doesn't look like they're near anything. So I think I watched the whole UFC card at midnight. And then at the end, it just ended up perfect. And whatever time that was, I just, watched the fight. But,
well, it's tough too, if I could just interject. Yeah. So there's all these different things, the pageantry, features, Canelo walking at a certain time, all of these different things, right? And I'm not suggesting that the co-main event was anything spectacular, but I'm there for 11 hours and the co-main event winner between Callum Walsh and Fernando Vargas Jr. doesn't even get an interview. And I understand that in that moment, promotionally, it's like, man, these walks are going to take a while. We have all these musical acts. We don't have the 7 minutes to work all of that traffic in there, or even the 5. And I get it. But, if we're going to be there for 12 hours, I feel like Callum should get a microphone,
Yeah. Well, how was your experience? Were you treated like as an outsider because you're an MMA guy? Or
No, I felt the warmest of welcomes. I'm sure there were a lot of people maybe talking trash behind my back when I left the room, but no, I had my head down as I always do. I was trying to condense a decade's worth of preparation into about 25 days. And I ate every single meal in the room. My room service bill was $940.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I ate every single meal in the room. I did nothing but prep and just try to put myself in position to succeed. But no, I felt very confident going in there because of the work I did. It was very exciting to be a part of it. But yeah, I mean, I love mixed martial arts, and there's a lot more carnage, I think, in that sport, at least on the surface.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Kate. I mean, I think the pacing of MMA is way different than what, because I'll tell you,
our pacing ain't perfect either. This all needs to be fucking quicker.
Oh yeah, I know. But my point was, I tell you, I was really excited for you with this opportunity. And then I had, because it was late, I forgot about it. After round 1, I'm going to say you didn't say a word. Round 2, I go, oh my God, John's there. I forgot all about it.
Really? Well,
why
no,
I
it's
was
interesting because of all the
That's why I
feedback
was
I've
asking
heard,
you. Yeah.
that's the first that I've heard that. So I would have to go back and watch it. I have not gone back and watched it
Yeah.
because I was watching Noche UFC after the fact. But you know, we all have an ego, but I really don't bring one to that booth.
No,
And to my
definitely
right
not.
are two guys who have devoted the last quarter century of their lives, if not more, for max 40 years to this initiative. So I'm not afraid to stay in my lane. But no, I felt like I found my footing and picked my spots, but perhaps not.
And I got to tell you, I was around when Max Kellerman first came on the scene. He was a dynamo back then. 40 years ago, he was really, really
Yeah.
good. I felt like he might have slipped a little bit. I haven't really watched boxing that much. I thought Andre Ward was spectacular, on the money with
Oh, he's the man.
on the money with everything he said during that fight.
He is a sharp
Yeah.
cat and so prepared, so thoughtful.
Yeah.
Buckets of respect for the way he approaches the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I thought Ward was tremendous as well. I don't know if it was so loud in there too. I felt like your guys' audio could have been up a little bit. Maybe it was just the nature of the stadium, but it was loud in there for sure. But I think that the pacing and I think, John, you make a point. It'd be nice to see the UFC go a little bit faster as well sometimes. But as far as putting on an event and putting on shows, the UFC has it figured out more than anybody else.
100%.
Even when I was at the PFL, it's like, guys, let's get this going. We don't. People don't want to wait around to see guys, especially if they're not huge names. No one's waiting around to watch Joe Blow get in the next fight. It's like, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
If you're going to build something up, maybe build up the main event. But as far as production wise and putting on the event and keeping things moving, there's just no one who has it down better than the UFC. And I think that's why, the sport has really taken over. But as far as boxing, it was great to finally see an event between two of the best boxers get put together while they're still relatively close to their prime. That was a really special event for sure.
I agree with you. And that's why Dana was always, I think, insistent on, he didn't want to give up production rights to anybody he didn't deal with. He wanted to be involved, and it paid off because I think, to me, it was almost like, okay, it's a good fight. Obviously, it's not a great fight. What's a great fight? Hearns Hagler, when they got together. That's a fucking fight. They went to kill each other. These guys, it's a good technical fight. I don't think Canelo gave a shit about pushing it. That ain't Julio Cesar Chavez in there banging the body. You can't stop him. He's coming forward.
Right.
Again, the other guy's really good. Crawford's amazing. He ain't Roy Jones Jr. You know what I mean? That's what I was thinking during the fight. Like, when we used to get super fights, guys went at it. They went at it. And now it's like, let me just grab a paycheck, do my thing. Let me not take too many chances and get the fuck out of here. That was kind of my thing. And I'm used to that MMA pacing where it's fucking haywire. And it just seemed very, slow, but enjoyable. You can't argue that. You had two of the biggest names in boxing at it, but they weren't going at it like, it meant anything to them. They were just, it was to me, it was a really good, sparring match. I'm sure I'm going to get crucified by the boxing people, but again, I'm used to Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran. That's where I really haven't watched boxing. So to me, it was, a little bit, it was just good. It was a great fight to watch and technically very, very nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased as well, but juxtaposed to watching some of the fights on, the UFC Fight Night, UFC Noche, and then going into the boxing, it was a much slower. I was kind of expecting, all right, when he's going to throw an elbow or a kick or a flying
right.
knee? I mean, you had a bunch. This fight night was insane, and then the boxing, you're kind of it felt like more of a sparring fight.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You had Lopes and so dude, that was craziness, man. That was just that was an exciting 8 or 9 minutes. Exciting.
Even the fights before that were really good.
No, I'm just bringing that up because it's the one, the main event versus main event. But that was my thought. But it was a great fight, and
Ray, I think you articulated a lot of that stuff really well, and I think you probably know, given our friendship, that I agree with 90% of what came out of your mouth. I mean, imagine what it was like for me. I'm used to getting showered with blood. I barely had a chance all night to raise my octave or sort of cap anything. No, I mean, there were energetic moments, but yes, I did feel like at times, and I'm not afraid to get crucified at this point by the boxing media, right? You can imagine how many, people have things to say, but yes, I felt like pockets of that fight within Crawford's brilliance were underwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you talk to Canelo after the fight. How do you feel? I feel great. Why wouldn't you?
Right. Well, right. And
you got hit 4 times. Why wouldn't you feel good?
Well, and Max Kellerman had said, right, there is a chance that if this fight took on a Hagler-Hearns type quality, and that it could have just put the sport on a rocket ship.
Unbelievable. Did he say that? That's where I'm coming from.
Because of how many eyeballs. Well, he said it off the air to us.
Yeah.
So people don't come here for boxing talk inherently. And never mind us talking about like how this might affect Canelo Alvarez's legacy, right? But I would like to just ask you guys quickly, if I could, about Canelo Alvarez, because a more gracious, classy combat sports athlete I have not met. And he has put this sport on his back. He is the face of boxing. He has made so much money for so many individuals within the boxing world. Yes, this was a 9-figure payday for Canelo Alvarez, and one that he could not turn down. But legacy-wise, there was more downside than upside to be fighting the quote-unquote smaller man. And, yeah, Canelo's already got 2 losses, so to have 3, not a big deal, right? But, there were some, and I know maybe it's a minority because of guys like Salvador Sanchez and Julio Cesar Chavez, but there were some who considered him the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. And, Kenny, I'll start with you. His resume does now absorb this loss, and I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up the other 2 great Mexican boxers, and there's many more than that, but certainly Salvador Sanchez was one of my favorites, and of course Julio Cesar Chavez was a guy that I would watch with my dad all the time. He had so many damn fights. Ray brought him up earlier as well, but it's tough. Back then I feel like that was the golden era of boxing when Julio Cesar Chavez was fighting Meldrick Taylor and all those other guys, and there was just so much competition. Pernell Whitaker, and so for me, it's hard because I see it with such a different set of eyes, I guess. I just kind of saw those guys as kings. So for me, Julio Cesar Chavez is that guy. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. In an age where, and Floyd, you got to love him, but Floyd would wait till a lot of boxers got old and slower. And when he knew at 100% absolutely that he would beat them, that's when he would fight them. And Canelo Alvarez, I think what, separates him from a lot of those, the more modern day boxers is that he did want a challenge, and maybe he didn't fight the way that we all wanted him to, but he did at least take that challenge.
Yeah.
In an era where a lot of boxers would not put their name on the line against someone like that, I do think the money did help.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, he said it. His legacy's already, he feels his legacy was done before that fight. So 150 million. Yeah, why not? What did he get beat up? Did he really get, did the guy take a, no, he definitely outboxed him. Beautiful footwork by Crawford and, outspeeded him. But, Canelo kind of resorted to moving around, throwing what he punched him in the air.
There wasn't that sense of urgency from Canelo that we've seen in the past. It seemed like he was content to box. Where Canelo's best chance at going in there was kind of like, getting on the inside and really just pressuring him nonstop. He was pressuring him, but not in that typical way of like, I need to win this round right now. It was kind of like, I want to keep it close. That's what it seemed like. And again, it's very different once you're in there. Of course,
100%.
Crawford's footwork could obviously nullify a lot of that. But
so let's make that clear too. I don't want to take anything away. I'm just making it a comparison to what I was used to. I haven't really been watching boxing. I was very excited for the fight. And I'm going to say, look, I'm going to be fair. Anything less than Hagler Hearns probably would have disappointed me. I just thought 2 guys, let's go. Right. Let's fucking go. You know what I mean? I've been going back to the boxing gyms with a couple of my guys. Man, those fucking sparring sessions are unbelievable, Kenny. It just, it's a different feel. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
I don't know, but hats off to both guys. It was definitely very, very, it was a great fight. But
last 2 things I'll say just very quickly on that. I will be buying some Canelo Alvarez merchandise because my gosh, man, I mean, just dripping with class, everything he does, just such a magneticism and just so much grace with which he handles everything. And then Terence Bud Crawford, right? Just hardened by his formative years in Omaha, Nebraska, and just dealt with so many different life circumstances to arrive at this moment. And the legacy swing for him was enormous in this fight. And it's just really amazing that he now has this legacy as one of the greatest of all time, because Floyd Mayweather, right, had a slickness and a specialness to him that I'm not sure that Bud necessarily can touch, but it's Bud Crawford, Kenny, who put everybody away throughout his run to greatness. 11 straight knockouts going into the Madrimov fight at 154 pounds last year. Then he skips middleweight, moves up to 68 and does this, right?
Yeah.
Boxing is hard when it comes to Mount Rushmore and all-time greatness, as I said off the top of the telecast, but right, like in basketball, it's like you got LeBron, you got Kobe, you got Michael, and you know, in boxing, you have 100 fighters, Kenny, right? Yeah. But this really, as an American fighter over the last quarter century, if not longer, you know, this puts Bud Crawford in some pretty rarefied air. So
100%, man. I thought it was a masterclass of boxing as far as, you know, the whole package, defense, offense, you know, how to neutralize a bigger, stronger guy. And the jab, everything, his ability to switch stance. It was a brilliant performance and a lot of class and humility on his part as well after the fight. So, you know, I would like to see him in a couple more fights. I think there's some other fights in there. What will we see him again? I'm not sure. Canelo says he probably has another year or two. Maybe we see a rematch again. Who knows? But I thought it was, for boxing, I thought it was a solid night overall. No question.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Crawford, I'll tell you where I really was impressed with Crawford. I think it was whatever round. He might have, Canelo kind of got on track maybe in the 5th round, and he came out in the 6th round, man. See, that's what I like to see. And he took over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, he wasn't going to go 2 rounds down. So to me was very impressive. But then I loved it. And then when he got back on track, though, then he could cruise. And, you know, and you even had Andre Ward saying, why would he take a chance? You know, so, you know, maybe landscape has changed too. I don't, what the fuck do I know? But you know what I mean? Normally you do take a chance no matter what. You really want to cement your legacy, fucking go for it. You know, I mean, I got to believe that's what Dana White's thinking in his head, because that's what he does with the MMA guys. You know what I mean? So, all good though.
John, did you find it interesting the kind of Ilya Topuria talk between him and Crawford? What do you think about all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I try to stay in my lane when it comes to like how competitive a matchup might be between those two guys in the boxing world, you know, but on the surface, I don't love when I hear MMA fighters think they're anywhere close to what I'm seeing, right? Because when I'm watching open workouts and just privy to some private boxing stuff, it's just a different world.
Different.
It's 100%. I love Ilya Topuria, but that's not good.
No. So
Crawford, they're at a different level, John. That's 1,000,000%.
So we had some amazing fights early on. Sergey Bohachuk in the rematch with Brandon Adams, and the Lester Martinez Christian and Billy fight was absolutely insane. But I just have to say, and I could go for hours on this, I could talk to you guys for days, but as an MMA commentator stepping into that world for a night, I don't know what the future holds, right? It's just a less violent sport in totality. I mean, the cut men were barely needed. There weren't a lot of concussive blows being landed. You know, at one point later in the night, my brother and I were sort of talking about, you know, you bring kids to a boxing match, it seems like, you know, they're not going to see too, you know, like on this night, I mean, they didn't need to clean up the canvas or anything.
Yeah, you're safe. Yeah, we used to extreme violence. I mean, we really are. And that could be part of what I'm saying is that when you don't get that thirst, you know, we get, not only are we used to it, John, we used to it on a weekly basis, you know. It's still fresh in your head. It's not like we saw a good fight 8 months ago, and
I get off the air and you know, John Silva looks like the doll from Child's Play, Chucky, with all the scars on his head.
Let's hope MMA doesn't evolve until to swords and knives, because then it just happens again.
But I think that's part of the other problem, Kenny, is that we're on a weekly basis we're seeing mayhem, and then when you see like a structured very technical, nice fight. It's like, all right, that's good. You know,
what we're saying, John, is boxing's way too civilized for us. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. Really, though, such a cool experience to step into that world. And we don't do a lot of UFC stadium shows, and that was cool as well. And, you know, sort of weird for me. I guess weird maybe is the wrong adjective, but a pressurized spot when you haven't called a sport like that. And I can have this conversation with you guys on the other side. I hadn't called a boxing match, as Kenny knows, since Vitaly Klitschko and Shannon Briggs in 2010. Wow. So to be entrusted with a microphone for a fight of this magnitude, you can imagine how seriously I took it to make sure you're doing right by the athletes. But I essentially watched the entire Bud Crawford fight library over the last 3 weeks. I did not watch it while he was competing.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
that's crazy. Well, listen, I know
you killed it, dude.
Yeah, you definitely killed it. I know one thing. Nobody's outworking you. That's what I believe in my heart, that is almost impossible. And I think you even alluded to you had everything on the menu 2 times over. But I don't think I don't even know if people have your work ethic anymore, to be honest with you. But great job. And, you know, it was a good night and overall, just, you know, but getting to bed at 4 a.m. kind of sucked. But,
something you can be sure that our lead producer, Zach Candido, would love the UFC shows to happen more expeditiously. There are a lot of masters to serve, but whenever I hear the word pacing, the notion that the UFC and boxing can't do it better is just crazy. I mean, we need to turn and burn, you know? I'm trying to get high out here, you know?
Yeah. No, I think Dana has complete reins. I think he'd make a lot of changes, and I think that's when we're talking about pacing. I could be wrong about the first round, but I don't think it even gave you anything to say. That's why you didn't interject anything.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of different things in terms of, I mean, it's really like sort of behind inside the actor's studio in terms of all of that, but. No, I mean, you certainly, I was not going to, when I talk to people about play-by-play and commentators, right? When I'm watching a sporting event, oftentimes I'm not paying attention to the announcers unless they get in the way of my experience, you know? Mm-hmm. And we're trying to be as listenable as possible over 8 hours and not get in the way of the sporting event, right? So when Canelo and Crawford are walking, my producer will say to me anytime, right? But that doesn't mean that I immediately, all right, you know, it's like, it's not about me, right? So they might say anytime now, and then I might give Bud Crawford and his guitar case 8 more seconds before I say something, you know? Ray, before we let you go.
Yeah.
So Lerone Murphy is probably going to fight Alexander Volkanovski in December. This was a good result this weekend for the top featherweight contenders like Lerone Murphy and Aljamain Sterling because the guy who fought Volk recently, Diego Lopes, won, and the guy who a lot of people thought might move into that December slot against Volkanovski, John Silva, is now out of the mix, right? But, you know, Lerone Murphy was sort of wondering aloud how Aljo's name would even be in the mix, and not because I'm your friend. I immediately came to Aljo's defense, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
it is
stupid.
Interesting. I do believe, and maybe this is a foregone conclusion, that Lerone is getting the title fight, right? But you know, based upon what I know and what I've seen in the past, I don't think they're considering Volkanovski versus Mobsar. It would seem to me like there are only 2 guys being considered right now, right? And it's probably going to be announced soon. It's either going to be Lerone Murphy or it's going to be Aljo. Like, do you think there's any chance you guys get that fight?
I think Aljo 1,000,000% deserves the fight. I don't think he'll get the fight, but if I'm Aljo, I'm licking my chops at this point. He's in a really good spot. And I think Aljo's he's an intelligent dude. He makes his case. Former champion. He basically hasn't lost at 45. I mean, that Mozart fight was razor thin. Could have went either direction. They have that guy as the top of the top. So what are we talking about? Give the guy a title shot. I mean, I like, again, the way they handled him at 35, I just can't see him giving the guy a shot that I really think he deserves at this point. But he definitely deserves a shot. But Lerone Murphy deserves a shot too. But there's a lot of great fights you can make. And look, even though Silva lost, and you still saw when he was on, Kenny, he was on. You know what I mean? And Diego's just a listen. This is a sport. You got to be able to take it as good as you give it out. And Diego Lopes can take it and give it out. You know what I mean? And it's what a show of heart that was too. Man, he got kicked in that chin 10 times. You know, but Silva's not going anywhere. I think he's going to come back stronger because you could see like when he was unloading, he still got it. There's something, you know, they have to, their ground game, obviously, with the Roofy fight, they got to make some adjustments there because, you know, the guy's in Mount, he's at the top of the food chain. He's doing the 2-minute Hercules trying to get out. You know what I mean? Like, just like, I'm not saying that to be, but you know what I mean? Like, there was no technique there at all, Kenny, to reclaim guard. He was stuck. And, you know, it took an escape that's not traditional. He probably could have got on board or whatever coming out of there, but you know, he got away with it. He got out and he got back to his feet. And after taking that beat, and he still showed some grit and determination, and it was going his way. And that came out of nowhere. That elbow, another spin elbow knockout. We've never seen that like 4 weeks in a row. But just a beautiful job by Diego Lopes against a really tough guy. And I don't think like you can't count the guy out. It wasn't like he got caught. He got caught. He made mistakes that he I think are correctable, or at least a little better. He could get, but and those guys all stepped up. All three of them. You know, they might have stepped up a little too quick. But I don't think any of those guys are going anywhere. So it was a great fight, a great night.
I love what you said about Diego Lopes, just the willingness to take it and give it. Promoter's dream, I think, is a good way to describe him. And I think for Aljo, he might very well get Diego Lopes or Jon Silva. I know Kenny wants to see Aljo against Jon Silva. So you might very well get one of those guys. Ray, anything else before we let you get on with the rest of your Monday, my friend?
Well, I mean, I got to talk about Freddie V before we get out of here. Freddie Vidal, he won on the Contenders Series on 6 days' notice. The guy dropped 30 pounds. He got to 30, Kenny, and cramping up disaster.
Damn.
You know, and he went in there and he pulled it. He pulled out a really good win given the 6 days' notice. Freddie's only got 3 fights. He wasn't going to get into the UFC, even however he won. They didn't let Bo Nickel in it with 3 wins, and he submitted the guy. So it was good. Freddie stepped up to the plate. He wanted to do it, and it worked out really good. I mean, hats off to Freddie Vidal. He showed me a lot. It was one of the guys in the gym that I'm with every day, but man, did he show me a lot in that fight. And the whole week leading up to it, just handled himself like a true professional. So I hope this fight, is worth about 4 or 5 fights to him.
Right.
You know, so
and then maybe get another shot on the Contender Series and then be in the UFC.
Yeah, Dana gave him another shot. He's fighting October, the 14th. Last fight, the 14th. So I think Dana did the right thing too. And Freddie, I think, man, did he have to dig down deep, and just everything was just it was a good week. So
congratulations. Congratulations. Great job in the corner as always. Nice to see your amazing work highlighted out there for the masses on social media. Yeah, it's crazy. That was 6 days ago, and so much has happened since. So I forgot. I'm glad you brought that.
It really is, John. It's wild. I mean, I'm literally delirious half my life at this point. It's crazy,
dude. I am on complete fumes right now. Thank you guys for carrying the show today, and thanks for all the support leading up to Saturday night. Seriously, John, on the backside, I appreciate it.
That was huge, and I hope everybody saw your true professionalism and your dedication and hard work, and hopefully just things get bigger and brighter, baby, which you'd think couldn't get any bigger or brighter. Thanks, but buddy. Maybe they could. But unbelievable job.
My son though just wants me managing Stop and Shop next October. That's what he wants. So, we'll see, buddy.
Wait, what is that? Managing Stop and Shop? What is that?
He wants me to manage the grocery store so I can be home every night, you know? Around the corner, you know what I mean?
Hey, that's heartbreaking.
No, I know. Hey, real quick. I got to get your thoughts on Kelvin Gastelum. Can you do it in about 30 seconds, Ray? And what are we doing here? You know, it becomes, what are we doing here?
I don't know. Kevin, where are we going with this? I mean,
Well-
I mean, the guy.
Well,
yeah, I mean, obviously, the guy's always struggled with the weight, but I mean, I think he said it like he had a.
You sign a bout agreement 4
Without
weeks
a doubt.
ago.
Without a
The
doubt.
weight's on the bout agreement.
And it was at 185, not 170. So,
Right.
yeah, listen, I think Kelvin's been fighting a long time, man. And I think that's one thing that has been really difficult for him is kind of managing his weight in between fights. And that, to me, typically, and I think he still fights with a passion. He does have that hunger in that regard. But outside of the cage, being disciplined with the weight, with your diet, that's something that he's always struggled with. And I think it's only going to get worse as you get later on in your career. And it's unfortunate, man, because the UFC's they're not going to be happy with that. And yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, I mean, and I like Kelvin. He's really he's just he's been a nice guy from the first day I met him.
Oh,
so
he's a stud.
But I do think he's got a serious eating disorder, though. I don't think he might fall into a category. I don't know. He's struggling with something. Though. Like I believe he's struggling. I don't think it's that he doesn't care. I think, I had a girl once that she had to be 300 pounds, and she was going to Dr. Atkins to see him personally. Couldn't lose an ounce, and I was putting her on the Versacline. I was trying to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case, but I mean, you want to believe it's not just like I don't give a fuck. But you're right. When you sign that agreement,
are you saying Kelvin's 300 pounds, Ray? Is that what you're saying in the offseason?
I'm saying I really believe this guy struggles with something, or his body's not responding like a normal person. I don't know. Maybe this guy could be completely wrong. But whatever.
Could be on.
I feel bad for him. I mean, because it's not a good look. Like, again, don't sign the agreement if you can't make the weight. And I just watched my guy almost die. Seriously, cutting 30 pounds. He had to go another 5 in 6 days. I saw Weidman kill himself. Wouldn't accept 3 pounds. He just wouldn't do it.
You were in there with
on the
Kenny.
floor. Like, what was that?
Yeah.
You were in the sauna with
Kenny. What about
Kenny
that?
Florian.
Go back to that. We just talked about that yesterday because Favreau is fighting in Vancouver. And I said the last time I was there that's the story.
That's right. That's right.
Where he was freaking
skin and bones.
Couldn't even turn his head to thank me.
Right.
I mean, I'm not joking.
Right.
Certain things you remember, but that's a guy that wants to do the right thing. And
Kenny finally rehydrated in 2017, I think, like fully. Like 6 years So, no, but at some point in time, you are cheating the sport, even though Dustin Stoltzfus gets 35% of his purse. And it does come down to discipline at the like. I probably put on 7 pounds. Do I have a disorder? I probably put on 7 pounds since I got off the air Saturday night. You know how many fucking gummy bears I ate yesterday? We got to go, I think, Ray.
John, that's fucking great. But I'll tell you, 35% is a big number, man.
That is a big number.
I mean, so is 199 pounds when you were supposed to weigh 86 or whatever.
That's why I say he's definitely not motivated by money, because that's a big chunk to come out of your paycheck.
Yeah. Well, I know he fought twice in short order, and I'm not trying to come down too hard on the guy, but it's just sort of like, it's sort of.
Wait, John, let me say another thing. And then again, listen, part of the blame, I don't want to say this, is the UFC too. They're asking a guy on a month's notice to fight. And it's the old saying, you put a gun in a monkey's hand and he shoots somebody. Whose fault is it?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what they did. They know the guy can't make the weight, most likely. It's not in their favor. Why go with a guy that is a guaranteed lock? I don't know. Just my thoughts. Whatever.
Well, yeah. He could make 56 to save his life, but that's a conversation for another day. Ray, we got to go.
All right, take it easy, guys. Hey, John, congrats on, that was the biggest takeaway for me. I got to hear my friend at 3:00 in the morning. Anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Take it easy.
See you, Ray.
Arguably the greatest of all time. He has coached 4 men to UFC titles. Ray, Peter, Longo. All right, more on the boxing in about 60 seconds, but it is football season. Your season, your shot. NFL season is rolling, baby, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown scorer props to anytime touchdown props, which are my personal favorite, to live in-game betting. Every snap is loaded with opportunity. Week 2, not yet in the books completely. If you are watching live right now and playing Monday Night Football later, 2 games on the board, including the Raiders catching a field goal in their home opener against the Chargers. Lines and odds are subject to change. And new customers, as my mom used to say, now hear this. This one is for you. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. You can also score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Outstanding offer. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code AFPOD. That's code AFPOD to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer. So, Kenny, Callum Walsh beat Fernando Vargas Jr. in the co-main event on Netflix. And congratulations to Callum. I just came away from this live event with a lot of excitement about a lot of different boxers. Christian Mbili, Lester Martinez, King Mo Alakel, the Saudi Arabian kid who's 21 and just has the straightest jab I've ever seen, and Callum Walsh and Fernando Vargas Jr. both. And this was the biggest stage of their careers. They had to deal with a lot of different pressures that didn't accompany previous fights. And I guess my thesis statement after the fight is like, what a thankless space combat sports is, because when you're a young undefeated fighter, right? Credit to Zuffa Boxing and His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White and Nick Khan for making this fight right now. Close fight on paper in a lot of respects, even though Callum Walsh was maybe a minus 285 favorite, but 2 young undefeated fighters that maybe in eras past would have been protected. Even Callum Walsh said in our fighter meeting that Fernando Vargas Jr. should have been protecting that name a little bit longer and not fighting me right now. But you can't always have style points. You can't always finish. And Callum Walsh, I think, did need to prioritize the O, and the outcome really for him was never in question. I don't know how much of the fight you saw, but, you know, sometimes I feel like fighters aren't celebrated enough when they have a clean sweep or win a fight the way they're supposed to, and then they got to deal with, you know, criticism on Sunday morning. It's just a tough game.
It really is, man. You know, I think just to get into, you know, the world of professional boxing or professional fighting in general is extremely difficult. And then to find your way onto some of these huge cards in boxing or in the UFC or wherever you're fighting at a high level, it is so tough. You know, and like to Canelo's point, what he was saying earlier, it's like you've already won at that point, and then whatever you're able to do on top of that to make yourself successful and to have your name out there with some of the greats. It's a huge accomplishment, man. In a sport where, you know, and just professional sports in general, very few fans are going to truly, truly appreciate you just because everyone's kind of looking to pick you apart all the time. And yeah, no, my respect is just immense for these guys, whether it's boxing or mixed martial arts. You know, when you're fighting at the highest levels, there's so much that can go right and wrong leading up to a fight. And, you know, especially when there's so much on the line further ahead, you know, you don't win this one, you're not going to get those other opportunities. So you have to do what's best for your career, for your family, for your bank account, for your legacy, all those things. So yeah, screw everybody else.
Well, and unfortunately in boxing, one loss can really determine an entire career. It's not like MMA. And you might have heard Andre Ward say at the end of our live broadcast, and again, so much thoughtfulness from Andre SOG Ward throughout the entire broadcast. But he said, you know, one thing boxing needs to maybe take a page out of the MMA book would be losses. That losses can't necessarily be defining. That in boxing, they are so defining, and in MMA, they aren't necessarily defining. Everybody sort of meets their match. And I just thought it was a really important piece of context. We had a heavyweight prelim between Jermaine Franklin Jr. and Ivan Ditchko, and I think in that particular fight, levying some criticism would be okay. Huge opportunity for two heavyweights, and neither one really did much with it. And Ditchko loses his O unceremoniously in a fight that most people thought he won. And Jermaine Franklin Jr. in the biggest fight of his career was just being lambasted by his corner all night long for maybe not maximizing the moment, and then he sort of gets gifted a decision. But I do believe when it comes to Cal and Fernando Vargas Jr., they fought a clean, competitive fight. I was entertained. And one thing I also thought was interesting, real quick on the way out, Callum was defending his WBA Continental Americas belt. And, he sort of said, deadpanning during the week, yeah, the belt's at home, I don't even know. And, all week, Fernando Vargas Jr. is saying, and new, and the new, and,
right.
I'm sort of thinking we don't acknowledge this as a title fight on broadcast. So, had Vargas Jr. knocked Callum out, I wasn't going to be screaming and new. It's just interesting me stepping into that world, what belts we acknowledge, maybe what we don't. Max Kellerman hasn't acknowledged an alphabet belt in 25 years on the air. I'm the play-by-play guy. If you think I'm not going to acknowledge Christian Mbili's alphabet super middleweight interim championship, I'm going to do that, So, all right. Well, I'm excited to call UFC 320. I'll tell you that. Yes. I'm excited to get back to my roots a little bit. Thanks to Ray Longo. Thanks to our producer, Cody Merrow. Thanks to my twin brother, Jason, for being out here in Vegas, for helping me prep. Thanks to the great Kenny Florian. We are gone for 8 or 9 days right now. Ken Flo is taking Team Florian International, and we will be back with you on September 26th. And we'll be looking ahead to the Perth show, I believe. Carlos Ulberg and Dominic Reyes are the men on the marquee. But thanks to everybody for the warm embrace in the boxing world. Your support certainly means the absolute world to me. I have read your comments, even if I can't respond to them all, and hits me right in the heart. Thank you all very much. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the Anik and Florian podcast. We will talk to you on Friday, September 26th. Until then, for Ken Flo, I'm Jon Anik. Thanks for watching and listening. Yo, later.
Kenny Florian, I got him, baby. We did it.
I love this shit.